Pink.
Yeah.
Looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Me?
Ooh.
Ottawa Senators.
Oof.
Go Ryan Reynolds.
It looks great, Norm.
We just got back from a train trip.
Yes, we have. And it was
epic
wonderful.
Train trip.
Ooh, it was, wasn't it?
Where did we go, Teen?
We went from Toronto to Vancouver.
We did.
On the Canadian train.
4 nights, 5 days.
Fantastic, wasn't it?
So that was Via Rail, train number 1.
Yeah.
The transcontinental from Toronto to Vancouver. And we have some top tips that if you're thinking about doing this trip, or maybe another train trip somewhere in the world, these tips could be useful for you. So, what are we going to start with, Teen?
Well, I think one of the ones was that we actually went from our local, where we lived, from our town, we took the train into the main station in Toronto.
That way we didn't have to drive, have parking, and it was very restful.
Yes, it was.
And cheap.
Yeah, incredibly cheap, wasn't it?
So if you're in Ontario and you're going to take this train, why not take your local train to get to Toronto Union Station? The second thing that we thought about was our train was going to be leaving at around 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. They want you to check in with Via Rail in the business lounge 90 minutes beforehand, just like being at the airport.
Yeah.
Because you have to show them your boarding card, be registered, and then you've got to choose your first dining time for the first day. So we felt that if we had to be showing up around 8 o'clock in the morning, that we should maybe get a hotel the night beforehand. The weather was scheduled to be not great either. So I wanted to stay 40 minutes away on the train line that goes to Union Station. So we would just walk to a hotel, stay overnight, walk back to the train, get on a GO train. But Madam had another idea.
Yeah, I wanted to be right near the station because this was probably one of our sort of trips that we've been doing since COVID, hasn't it? And I didn't want any of this panicking of not getting there on time. So I suggested to Norm, let's pick a hotel right near the station.
An expensive one.
Yeah, turned out it was an expensive one because we'd forgotten it was Saturday night in Toronto. Having said that, yes, we did pay a lot for it, but you must admit, Norm, wasn't it a wonderful experience?
We were looking at the Royal York, which is across the street from the station, and I think the rooms were starting at $1,700.
Yeah, so
and that was a cheap room.
After Norm nearly had a heart attack, I thought he's not going to pay that.
So we found the Delta Hotel, and
Yes.
the advantage to the Delta Hotel, and we're not affiliated, we're not getting referral commission,
No.
nothing at all like that.
No.
But the Delta, you can walk indoors from arriving on a train to the Delta. It's part of the path system, which is in certain instances an underground street that has shops and shopping malls. But on this particular instance, it was all above ground.
Yeah.
So even dragging along your carry-on suitcase, it's not getting wet outside in the snow or the rain. And it's a 9-minute walk. And if you have Google Maps, it will take you there. You can just follow it on the footsteps. So you won't get lost.
No.
And unbeknown to us, as we were going there, we had joined the Marriott Rewards program. But we've only ever stayed at 1 or 2 Marriotts, so we have no status with them. But they upgraded us. So we got a beautiful room on the 41st floor.
After we got over the shock, because we both thought we were on the 4th floor, and then we realised it was the 41st floor.
The room number was
Whoa.
411, and we thought, well,
That's the 4th floor, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. So after we got over the fact it was on the 41st floor, the views were absolutely stunning.
it was a freshly renovated room,
It's
beautifully
gorgeous.
appointed, but
Yeah.
it overlooked the CN Tower and Rogers Place, where the Blue Jays play. We could see Billy Bishop Airport. We could see the lake.
It was wonderful, wasn't it?
And Ripley's Aquarium was just right down below.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. So, despite paying a handsome fortune for it, it was very convenient. So, in the morning, the Via Rail Business Lounge doesn't give you food.
No.
We thought we might get some element of breakfast there. They don't. There's
No.
free coffee and free soda. So what we did was, on the way walking to the train station, there's a coffee shop you pass called Belzac's. It's an Ontario-based coffee shop. And we'd already scoped out that they had breakfast sandwiches, which they heat up for you. And so we got one of those each and walked to the business lounge with them and got our free coffee. It was perfect.
Yeah, it worked out really well, wasn't it?
Now, if you want Tim Hortons or McDonald's, those are in the station, but they're probably a 10 or 15-minute walk to get to the food court and get back as well. So we were passing this coffee shop anyway, so it made sense that we just used that.
It worked out perfect for us, didn't it? Yeah. And actually, we'd forgotten to mention, Norm, that we actually ended up eating supper actually in the hotel, didn't we?
Which was a big surprise, because
yeah.
normally these full-service hotels charge a fortune for the food.
So I'd mentioned to Norm, why don't we have a look and see, because we were looking for somewhere to eat. So we got the menu, didn't we?
Yep.
And we'd already sort of had pizzas on our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, the woman said we could share a large pizza, and they were between like $18 and $24 for a huge pizza. So we ended up eating in the restaurant.
Yep.
We had a wonderful, it was actually a mushroom pizza, wasn't it? It was delicious.
With all fresh herbs on top.
Herbs on things. So we had that and drinks, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, and we didn't have to go anywhere. So it was in the lobby of the hotel.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend that. The pizza was absolutely one of the best that we've had.
It was great, wasn't it?
So, do we have another tip, team?
Yes. By now, I guess we are actually in the business lounge.
We are enjoying free Wi-Fi, free coffee.
So we would highly recommend you get there probably a couple of hours earlier. We actually got there around 8 o'clock.
We did.
And we checked in, we picked our meal, so we got on the first sitting.
Yeah, we're early eaters.
Yeah, that kind of worked really well.
And you got to realise there's 2 sittings at the time that we were going in March for the dining room. And it's first come, first served. So once they only have so many tickets to give out, because the kitchen only has so much capacity. We are, after all, on a train, and they're preparing gourmet meals in a very tiny galley kitchen. So once the early sittings have gone, you're in the late sittings.
Yeah. We
also asked the restaurant manager, because the one thing that impressed us about this trip was the train manager was female and the dining room manager was female, and they were both extremely welcoming and friendly.
Wonderful, weren't they? They'd
absolutely.
asked, had we been on the Canadian before? We said no, and they walked us all through it, and it made for a great first experience of getting on the train, didn't it? We loved it.
Great first impressions of Via Rail for this transcontinental trip. So Tina did ask the restaurant manager, who turned out to be an absolutely wonderful person.
Yes.
Could we have a table for 2? Because there aren't any table for 2s. They're all table for 4s.
I think her name was Jennifer.
Yes, it was Jennifer.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
So she said she would try her best. Well, she did.
She did.
And we got table for 2.
We did.
And then she said, would we like the next dining experience, table for two? And we said, we would love that. So right from Toronto to Winnipeg, when her shift finished, we got table for twos all the time.
And a lot of them we actually got in the booth, which is kind of like the special area to sit. And it was wonderful. She was great, wasn't she? Because she was so great, Norm gave her a really good tip.
Because it was making our trip so enjoyable.
Yeah, she really earned it. We loved it, didn't we?
We did indeed. So by now we're in our room.
Yes.
And the one thing that we always take on a cruise ship, and we thought we'd take it on this trip because there was a toilet in our room, is we take an air freshener. We use one of those little trees that you have.
Yeah, those little tiny things that you can hang in the car or whatever.
From the car mirror. And we have this flavour that we really like. It's like pina colada.
It's all coconutty, isn't it?
It really is.
So we took one of those to hang up in the toilet, and that was great.
And they have like a coat hook in the cloakroom, a couple of them. So we just hooked it onto there. And it gave it a wonderful scent the whole time. Because we have been on the odd cruise ship where there's been a faint odour in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And we would recommend... Take one of those, it's like $2.
That was great, wasn't it? Another really good tip that we actually got from Jennifer.
It was.
She was asking how we were sleeping and that, and we said, well, we were getting used to it. You know, the noise was kind of, you have to get used to the noise on the train, sort of. It rocks you a bit to sleep, even though they do give you earplugs.
They do.
But she said how to press down the plug in the sink.
It's spring-loaded.
And we thought, oh, that's weird. Anyway, after the first day, we tried that. We put it down and the noise was cut virtually way over in half.
She says the vast majority of noise comes up through the drain because we're on rails. And anyway.
It was fabulous.
Do that and your room will be a lot quieter.
Yeah.
The other thing that we had seen somebody else's review was when you're in your cabin, keep the door open because there's a window directly opposite your door on the left-hand side, and we have a big picture window in the cabin on the right-hand side. So that meant that we could see both sides from sat.
That was a great tip, wasn't it, that we gained, but we could see everything from both sides. It was wonderful.
And the advantages are that as the staff were going through the corridor past our room, that's where Jennifer stopped and just asked how we were doing and gave us that top tip for the bathroom sink.
It was great. I think another thing that might actually help the men more than the women with regard to Norm's haircut.
What, my long flowing locks?
We learnt really quickly how cold it is, particularly for Norm, when you're in the dome car on your head.
In wintertime.
In winter. Now, the same could be said, it could be too hot in the summer. We haven't been there. But
the sun would be beating down on your head and you'd be getting sunburnt.
So, Norm, take a hat with you. And the other thing is, if you have a shirt where you could maybe lift the collar up, or take a sort of snuggly hoodie, it sort of protects your neck from the cold.
And if you're in the last row of the seats in the dome car, you've got glass behind you and the side of you and above you. So those are the coldest seats in the dome car. So try and move a little further forward.
But they made for a great view looking backwards with the camera for the pictures. So although it was a little chilly, if you knelt up on the seat and you shot pictures going backwards of the train, it was wonderful, wasn't it?
That's right. So the other advantage over a cruise, for instance, and it is very similar to a cruise, only you're on land.
Yeah.
You can take your own alcohol on board, provided you only consume it in your cabin. So that's what we did.
Yeah, we did.
Took a bottle of scotch, nice malt whiskey.
And I took wine And
Tina bought those little half bottles of wine.
it was great. It worked out really well. Now we did. Norm likes to have a beer with his scotch, so we did purchase the beer from the actual Via Rail from the restaurant, from the bar. And we could bring that back to our cabin.
You can ask them not to open it,
and bring it back.
Bring it back to the cabin and open it there. Also, Tina drinks white wine, so what we asked, she asked the bar staff if they had any ice. So they actually came up with this sort of cardboard bucket, almost like a half depth version of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I was just going to say that, Norm, like.
And they filled it full of ice.
I know, so
Tina
I could put my wine in it.
and put the little bottles in.
It was great.
There's no fridge in the room.
No, there isn't, is there?
And we're in sleeper class plus for 2 people, so there's no fridge.
No. I think another thing too, Norm, was that we learnt was when we actually got off the train, you do arrive at the Pacific Central Station in Vancouver.
Another beautiful looking old railway station.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It is.
We had already looked at this and found that there were very few hotels actually near the station.
Well, there really aren't any.
No, so
it's an oasis of no hotels.
So we decided, we actually booked a hotel on Robson Street, was it?
We did. We're part of. We also have a Hilton Honors rewards program as well. So we found a very good price for the Hampton Inn on Robson. Yeah. And once again, we got upgraded.
We did.
And basically,
to the 10th floor.
We were overlooking BC Place, the sports arena. So we had the sports arena in Toronto and at the end in Vancouver, which it was amazing because it lit up at night as well.
What I was going to say is that we actually took a cab from the station to the hotel, and that cost us $10, which was nothing. But I think the big plus was that you could actually walk everywhere from this hotel. We actually walked down to the cruise terminal at Canada Place.
Canada Place, we did. And it was like 10 minutes.
And we were fortunate yet again because the blue sky came out, the weather was nice.
No rain in Vancouver.
I know. And they were forecasting, they'd had it the day before and they were going to have it the day after. But the day we were there, no rain. So we checked our bags in, didn't we? They looked after our bags and we went out walking.
Because we should say that we got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. By the time we got to the hotel, it was about 8:30, 8:45. So we just asked them if we could drop the bags there. They put them in a safe room. But then they did get us a room. And by 1 o'clock, we got notification on the app that we could check in.
So we did go back earlier than normal, didn't we? After we'd had some lunch and wandered around a bit, we went back.
Very much so.
Was added to the experience, wasn't it?
So those are some of the top tips that we would like to share with you, having ridden 4,400 kilometers on a train from Toronto to Vancouver.
And we would like to say that we had an amazing time, and it is an incredible journey to
wherever you are in the world, or if you're Canadian, American, it's a must-do.
Absolutely.
It's so bucket worthy, and we were so pleased to check that one off.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
So we hope that everybody's keeping well
and staying safe.
And until the next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.